The Navy SEALs have something that's called Hell Week, okay? This is a process that they go through where, on average, only 25% of SEAL candidates make it through Hell Week, okay? This tests everything, and this is the beginning. This is still application process, okay? So then I thought to myself, how do I create my own Hell Week for every applicant that comes into my business, okay? And we're gonna talk about that, because guess what? A-level talent loves a challenge. So all of us have heard the amazing opportunity to go hire $3 an hour Filipinos that can revolutionize our business, right? Everybody's talked about that, okay? So this was me back in 2017 being like, oh, everybody's hiring these Filipinos for $3 an hour and doing amazing things. At the time, it was called Odesk, okay? So I went on to Odesk, and I looked up some Filipino contractors that could come work for me, had hundreds of applicants. I was like, oh, this is exciting. But this is my first time hiring somebody. So I was like, oh crap, what do I do? Well, this is me sitting in my car, because we're in a tiny home, we have kids, and I scheduled all my interviews to be the Filipino daytime. So it's 11 p.m., midnight for me, right? So I'm in my car being like, this is the only quiet place I can be to have these conversations. First thing I get onto my first interview, their Wi-Fi connection was terrible. I was like, I can't even understand you. That's a bust. Next one comes on. I can barely even understand you. You speak English, but not the English that I speak, right? So I'm just like, this is not going well. So, and I had probably 10 interviews back to back to back, and I basically wasted the entire night. From that experience, I said there's gotta be a better way. There's smart people over in the Philippines. There's smart people everywhere in the world. How do I find them? And that's kind of where my 7-step process was born. So I'm gonna be running through all of this, and if you can twist Jim and Mimi's arm, maybe I can extend a little bit further. So we're gonna walk through each of these 7 steps, but I'll start here first, the time study. This is one of the most critical things that most entrepreneurs you almost rush into hiring somebody just because you're like, oh, sales are growing, we're getting so busy, we just need another warm body. We need another whatever it is, customer service or a sales rep or whatever, okay? And you rush into it. However, as the entrepreneur, as you're scaling up, one of the most important things to do is to continue to buy back your time. You've probably heard the book, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Great book. If you're scaling up your team, one of the most important things to do is buy back your own time and allow yourself to focus on more higher leverage opportunities in the business. So every 6 months I do this process where it's you go through, you're writing down in 15-minute increments what you do over 2 weeks, okay? It's painful, it's tedious, it's not fun, I get it, right? But when you do that, what you'll realize is holy smokes, most of my time is going to X, Y, and Z. I thought, if I were to ask you guys where you spend most of your time, 80% of you after doing this time study would answer that question incorrectly. What you think you're spending most of your time on is actually not what you're spending most of your time on. So when you do this every 6 months and you repeat it, you understand the constraint of the business is currently supply chain, or it's sales and marketing, or it's finance. And then what you do is you focus on hiring that role that's going to free up your time, okay? All right, so here's just a book that I recommend. Clockwork is a really good one that talks about kind of doing that time study. One of the most important things is you probably heard, he briefly touched on this, but you've got to get a lot of applicants to sort through and actually find somebody that's the top 1%, right? If you're trying to find the 1%, that means you've got to at least have 100 applicants, right? But that's not where we start. We start every role, we have to have over 1,000 applicants for every job before I will consider looking at who actually came through that funnel, okay? So the question is, how do you, now, if you're hiring local talent, it has to be within a 20-mile radius, this kind of breaks. But I'm hiring at a global scale. I can hire anywhere in the world. We're 100% remote, okay? And if that's the case, you should easily have over 1,000 applicants, okay? If you're not, I promise you're not hiring A-level talent, and if you do, you stumbled upon it, so to speak. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, now you're gonna have to put on your sales hat, okay? You have to actually go and tell people about your job. This is not the build it and they will come mentality. Just because you posted the job, you're, let's call it 5% of the way there, okay? Now what you're gonna need to do is you're gonna go to all of those platforms that I just talked about, and you're gonna set up these filters that I have screenshots of and stuff, and then you're gonna spam the living crap out of these people, okay? And that's what my executive assistant will go out and do. So in this role, we're looking for a project manager. There's 904 people on onlinejobs.ph that have been active within the last week. And then we're gonna go through here, we're gonna message them, and then this is the message. Hey, I found your profile. Looks like you've got great experience. Come apply to our position, okay? And then we just spam everywhere we can. Same thing on Upwork. We will go through here. One of the secret things to kind of like point out here on Upwork, are you guys familiar with Upwork? Yeah? Okay. Upwork, we've actually had pretty good success with it. We don't pay anybody through Upwork. We hire everybody off of Upwork. But here's the secret trick on Upwork. You don't want to hire people that have a lot of like history on Upwork. All the A-level talent that we found on Upwork just recently joined Upwork, and they have 0 reviews. They've earned 0 income on Upwork. So one of the things, like the key things that you want to look at is earned amount over there. Says any amount earned, and then job success, any job success. And you're like, well, why don't you want the people that are 90% and above? It's like, I don't want the people that just constantly churn, right? Which is basically what those guys are, okay? So what happens is like, these are gonna be, you're gonna find people that are leaving their corporate jobs, or they're about to leave their corporate jobs, and they're like, I've heard of my friend having success on Upwork, so I posted my resume there, and if you can scoop them up, that has been our, like, on repeat. Like, those are the best candidates that we have found. Okay. Then we're gonna spam, like I said, we're gonna go through, search for project manager, use all those filters, invite thousands of applicants. Okay? Now, here's where we'll turn it up even more. So this is Workable AI Recruiter, okay? So this will do instant sourcing for you. So Workable is kind of just like it's where we post our jobs, and then it will post it onto various other platforms, and then it all, like, wherever people apply, it all brings it into one single location for you, right? Okay, so in this one, we were looking for a graphic design assistant for our expanding Amazon business, okay? In this, you can see down here in the bottom, it found over 3,000 profiles, and specifically we were looking in the Philippines for this one. Over 3,000 profiles, and guess what? A lot of these people, now this is a different, I took a screenshot of when we were hiring our controller. But like, these aren't VAs that you're finding, okay? When it finds and it matches you and it pairs you with these people, like, look at this. This is for when we were hiring our accounting controller over in the Philippines, former assistant manager at Ernst & Young, finance and planning analyst manager, MBA. Like, these guys are intelligent people, right? That's what I want to bring into my business, okay? So then guess what? If you use Workable AI Recruiter, basically it's like scraping LinkedIn, and then what you can do is like select all, and then I'm gonna spam all of those people. And that's the message. It's just like, hey, we came across your resume, would you be interested in this job? So again, this goes out to 3,000 people, click of a button, okay? All right, now you're probably like, Josh, I do not wanna have 1,000 interviews with people to find the 1%. And I agree with you, because that sounds miserable. Before we can move to step 4, you have to experience a mindset shift in the way that you approach hiring. And this came as I actually had the author of the E-Myth, okay, Michael E. Gerber, on my podcast. And I asked him this question, and I said, hey, out of your years of experience, decades of experience, how have you been able to spot and identify A-level talent? And he said this. He's like, when it comes to hiring talent, do you have a vetting process that's similar to the Navy SEALs, where only the best survive? And I was like, interesting, tell me more. He was like, well, the Navy SEALs have something that's called Hell Week, okay? This is a process that they go through where, on average, only 25% of SEAL candidates make it through Hell Week, okay? This tests everything, and this is the beginning. This is like still like application process. Okay, so then I thought to myself, how do I create my own Hell Week for every applicant that comes into my business? Okay, And we're going to talk about that because guess what? A-level talent loves a challenge, okay? And we've actually, it's going to get pretty grueling here, but I'm going to share with you, why this works. And we get people, they actually enjoy the process when you go through it. All right, so step number 4 here. The nice part is this is going to be your easy process, okay? You're going to use assessments to filter out candidates. So anybody that applies for the job, if they say, hey, I'm COO material, I love pizza, nobody has looked at their resume. I don't care what their history is. It doesn't matter. My executive assistant will auto-respond to them. That is, hey, you look great. Please complete this assessment, right? It's like a personality assessment, and it has a little bit more to it, okay? So it's called Criteria Corp. That's kind of like the test bank that we use here. And it will measure, there's the criteria cognitive aptitude test, personality test, and the skills test. These are the 3 that they get. All right, if you read into this is their criteria cognitive aptitude test. According to their research, and I'm not an affiliate, I wish I could be, of their software, but it says cognitive aptitude is one of the most accurate job predictors of job success for any position, okay? And that's through their studies, et cetera. But basically, this is like an IQ score. If you're to really boil it down, it's more of an IQ score. So what do we do with this? So everybody that comes through as they begin completing these assessments of those thousands of applicants, you're going to weed it down, and you're going to have 90% that will just drop out of that funnel immediately because they won't pass these metrics. Okay, so they got to be in the 65th percentile or higher. Personality profile matches the job that we're looking for, and basic English and math skills. Okay? I'm not an affiliate, but whenever I've presented this, I presented it at one of the e-commerce stages, and they had a bunch of signups, and they reached out. They're like, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I just talked about how we're using your software. They're like, yeah, we got a ton of new people that joined. And I was like, do you have an affiliate program? They're like, no. And I was like, okay. Well, can I get a discount? And they're like, yeah, you get 10%. Anybody else that signs up gets 10%. So there you go. All right, step number 5, test project. Again, so now they've taken this assessment, okay, weeds 90% out. Now the next step is we're gonna have people complete a real active project that they would be working on in the business. So for a creative director that we hired, okay, so when we are hiring a creative director, they're going to be responsible for creating A+ content, all the images and the way it looks and feels and the branding on Amazon, okay? So what did we do? We said, here's the links to our folders, here's the assets, here's our brand style guidelines. Go ahead and mock some up for us, okay? And then, send it by its due date. Now what happens is that you're going to get 30% who will actually do the test project, okay? And then you're actually going to be able to see who can actually do the work itself, and do I like the work itself, okay? And notice how, again, we have not interviewed any of these candidates, nor have we looked at their resume, we haven't looked at their portfolio, we haven't looked at anything else up until this point, okay? Now if you're like, I don't even know what test project I would give, so AI tool here, use ChatGPT, fantastic ideas. Okay, and this is the prompt that we use for anybody. Whenever my team members need to hire somebody, I'm like, okay, use ChatGPT, go figure out what your test project's going to be. Okay, just some quick FAQs on this. So the completion rate's about 20 to 30% of those 100 applicants are actually going to complete it. Do they do it for free? Yeah, you better believe it, they do it for free. And the reason I unabashedly ask them to do it for free is because when I applied to work at American Airlines in their MBA rotational program out of my MBA program, what did they ask me to do? A free test project. So if the top companies in the US are doing that and you're not doing it, you're missing the mark, right? And they didn't compensate me, and as a student, I didn't think twice about it. Now, you will get 1 or 2% that will complain, how dare you take advantage of people this way? Oh well, you're out of the you're out. You're out. All right. Okay, next. Understand the potential weak points of candidates. So here's the AI recommendations from Workable. Okay, so what's cool is if you have people applying in Workable, they have their AI tools that will basically read their resumes for you. So that, again, I never look at a resume. I cannot tell you the last time I looked at somebody else's resume. I don't do it. Because this will basically say like, hey, 94% of what you had in your job listing is on their resume. Good. All right, sounds like that's a good match, okay? So you can just see, like, as we filter people out, like, you can see, like, we're left with, like, who's the best, okay? So step number 6, now we're going to do group interviews. So to walk you through the methodology, I'm reviewing these test projects. Now I'm looking at 30 of them, okay? And I'm going to actually look at them, and I'm going to be like, who would I actually want to work with based on the work that they produced, okay? From that, you're going to be like maybe between 30 to 50% of them. You're like, yeah, I could jive with any of these guys. I would love to learn more. So pulling a page out of Cole's book here, it's the group interviews, okay? So we do group interviews. We've actually found this to be very successful for any position that we have hired for, not just salespeople, okay? So we'll set up the group interviews via Zoom. There's a maximum of 5 candidates on that call, and then we'll go around the room asking each candidate the same questions. These are the questions. We'll just go one by one and be like, Mary, answer this, okay? John, same question. Sally, same question, okay? And we'll just go one by one. Then and what Cole said, like, you'll know within the first like 5 minutes. You're like, yep, XXX. These guys, maybe I'll give them a little bit more love. Let's see what they can do. Here's one of the most fascinating things. So the final question we ask, I call it the peer picking probe, okay, is we ask them, who would you hire from this interview? And you can't say yourself, okay? And what you'll find is like they're going to start to gravitate towards like who they know are the better candidates, and you'll see it. It's a fascinating social experiment, but one of the interesting things is like I was initially like, ooh, do I want to ask this? Here's one of the interesting things. I continue to get, every time I do that, and I do these group interviews, almost every time I'll get 1 or 2 candidates from every batch that will be like, that was the coolest process ever. Normally, I never get to see who I'm up against and competing against. I understand why I wasn't chosen for this role. They love it because they never see who they're up against, ever. And it's just like a black box to them. So they love that. So I think it's a win-win on both sides. I don't have to spend 5 different interviews looking at people. I've got 30 minutes, 5 people, scratch, scratch, scratch. All right, here's the 2 I want to move on with.